Welcome back. You've already learned how to do the informal proof method of reductio or proof by contradiction. Now in this video, we're finally going to explain how to do negation intro. This is the very last rule you need to add to Boole, and now you have a complete logical system. So let's see if you understand how this rule works. What I want you to do is try to complete this proof. See if you can figure out how to use negation intro in order to do this formal proof. Okay, pause your videos here. And remember, when you're doing these proofs from no premises, don't number the line up here. There is no assumption. You just have to start doing some intermediary conclusions. You don't get any premises for this proof. All right, but last chance to pause your videos. I'm going to talk about the answer next. Okay, how would this proof look? The first thing we have to do in order to do this proof is actually make a temporary assumption. We have no premises. You cannot look at the main connective here and start applying a rule to it because there's nothing there. The only way you can do a proof of a tautology, a conclusion from no premises in Boole, is to assume the opposite of your conclusion. Reductio is the only possible method. Now, when you do negation intro, the reductio method, you have to assume the opposite of your conclusion. So that's why I assumed P and not P here, because that's the thing inside the scope of the negation symbol. Once I have in my temporary assumption, I have a wide scope conjunction. Now I can bring down these parts. Those allow me to introduce the contradiction symbol. And every reductio proof or negation intro proof works by first making a temporary assumption and then finding the contradiction symbol. Once I get that, notice there's no contradiction elim down here. You end the subproof, and then you introduce the negation symbol. After all, what we're talking about is how the negation intro rule works. Okay, this rule actually perfectly mimics the informal method of reductio ad absurdum. Here's the schema for the rule. This is what it looks like in its abstract form. Let's say we're trying to prove negation intro. We're trying to justify by negation intro some sentence like not P. We assume the opposite of it. We assume whatever's inside the scope of that negation symbol. It might be atomic, it might be complex. And we put that in a new subproof. Remember, just like proof by cases, when you make temporary assumptions, the mechanism for that in a formal proof is this subproof device, writing out a new scope line, like a vertical bar here, and writing assume instead of premise. Now, remember in reductio, we assume the opposite of our conclusion, and then we try to prove a contradiction results. That's exactly how negation intro works. When you cite negation intro, we cite this entire subproof. Again, just like proof by cases, once you end a subproof, you're not allowed to cite the individual lines of it. The dash here is because we're citing the whole subproof as a chunk, as a unit. We're not citing those individual lines. Now, negation intro is a powerful rule. This method actually doesn't allow us to only prove sentences like not P. You can use this rule to prove a sentence like P as well, as long as you can assume the opposite of it and generate a contradiction. Like, let's say my conclusion now is P. In order to do a reductio or negation intro, I have to assume not P. I have to put the negation symbol on the front of it. But if I can get the contradiction symbol, look what happens. When I do negation intro, that puts another negation on front of this one. And then all I have to do is negation elim, and I get P. So don't think that the reductio method, the negation intro method, only works when your conclusion is a wide scope negation. Of course, it works great when your conclusion is a wide scope negation, but it also is a perfectly general proof rule, and you can use it when your conclusion is just some other sentence. As long as this structure, as long as you can pull off proving a contradiction symbol from negating your conclusion, this is going to work. In fact, this is so common to do even when your conclusion is not a wide scope negation that we're going to allow you this one shortcut. Whenever you assume the opposite of P and you get to a contradiction symbol, we're going to allow you to suppress this negation elim step. You don't have to first introduce the extra negation and then get rid of them both. We're going to allow you to jump from the contradiction symbol straight to P with no negations. And again, you cited negation intro. So this is confusing because my rule is negation intro, but there's no negation symbol here. And that's because we're suppressing the double negation and just going straight to P. So I will teach you both methods, the long way and the shortcut, because it's helpful to understand how both work. All right, but in terms of the basics of the negation intro rule, hopefully you can now understand the proof that we went through why this works. Because I have this complex sentence down here, and in order to apply reductio to it, what I need to do is assume this thing inside the scope of it. If I can assume P and not P, and then get to a contradiction symbol, that fits my pattern, my schema for introducing negation on it. So this is a good application of the rule. Okay, thanks.